Today we're at the Ranville British Cemetery and we're here to have a look around and tell some of the stories of the men who lay here. So the last few days we've been exploring some sites around Sword Beach itself and Pegasus Bridge and Merville. Well, here at Ranville, the British Cemetery holds the graves of some of the men who died in those various battles and who died in the attacks. We're going to have a look around here today, see what we can find and have a look at some of the specific graves and tell some of the stories. Ranville was the first village liberated by the Allies when the British 6th Airborne parachuted in here in the early hours of D-Day. A lot of the casualties from the 6th Airborne who were killed that day are buried here at Ranville, and in fact the cemetery now has more than 2,200 graves. There's also 323 German graves here and some of other nationalities, and in the churchyard next door there's a further 47 Commonwealth graves. The rain has just started to really come down again, which it has been for most of my time exploring Sword Beach and the surrounding area. Something which I've just noticed here is interesting. I'm used to exploring a lot of Great War cemeteries, which are normally fairly quiet. I'm often the only person in those, but it's interesting. There's actually loads of people here in Ranville. Now, it's in the lead up to D-Day, so I guess probably more people in the area than there would normally be. But it's interesting to see how many people are here in a World War II cemetery compared to what I'm used to seeing in a World War I cemetery. Right, we're going to stay cowering under the trees right here and we hope it's going to dry up soon. Now, as we take a minute to hide away from the rain in the back of the cemetery here under the cover, they have quite a cool thing here, as you see in a lot of the Commonwealth cemeteries, like maps of the area. And you can see the D-Day landing beaches here. There's some funny shadows on it, which we'll have to deal with, but you can see where we are here. So this is Ranville, and you can see how that links into where Sword Beach was, and some of the other areas we've been as well. Merville Battery is over here. Pegasus Bridge was just across the River Orne here, and then behind Sword, you have the different areas, and of course that moves along to the rest of the D-Day landing beaches. Quite useful just to give us an idea of where we are here. So the first grave that we're going to have a look at is that of Lieutenant D.F. Alexander of the Staffordshire Yeomanry, killed on D-Day when he was 23 years old, not far from here at Ranville. Now, I can't tell you a huge amount about Douglas, but we did have a photo of him, which is why I wanted to include him into the video here. But Douglas Forsyth Alexander, he was a member of the Staffordshire Yeomanry with the Royal Armoured Corps and was killed on D-Day not far from here, 6th of June 1944. He was only 23 years old and he lays here at Ranville Cemetery. Now, the next grave which I want to show you is quite an interesting one because it's not just the man himself who is buried in this grave. So here we have the grave of Emil Cortel, I've hopefully said that right, a member of the Parachute Regiment killed on D-Day. He was only 19 years old. Emil Cortel, and I'm probably saying that wrong, as I might well do with a few of the names here. A member of the 9th Battalion of the Parachute Regiment was killed on D-Day, 6th of June 1944. He was only 19 years old. He was from Watford, just kind of northwest of London in Hertfordshire. 19 years old, killed here on D-Day. Now, some of the British paratroopers who parachuted in here were dog handlers, and Emil was one of them, and he had his dog Glenn with him when he parachuted in. Glenn was sadly killed by Emil's side. They were both killed at the same time, and Emil's dog Glenn is buried with him here at Ranville Cemetery. His headstone bears the inscription, "Had you known our boy, you would have loved him too." Glenn, his paratroop dog, was killed with him. Now, sadly, as with a lot of the Commonwealth graves, not all of them are identified here. 90 of the men buried here at Ranville are unidentified, and we'll look at a couple of those as we head around. So we talked about the fact that some of the graves here are unknown. Well, here we have an unknown sailor of the Royal Navy, a sailor of the 1939 to 1945 war, the Royal Navy. So we saw the grave of the sailor over there, and here we have another unknown grave. This is the grave of a soldier of the 1939-1945 war. Known unto God, unfortunately couldn't be identified, but he's buried here at Ranville Cemetery. Now, of course, there's a lot of families in World War II who had to receive the tragic news that one of their loved ones had passed away. Well, for the next family whose graves we're going to look at, it was especially sad, because they had not just one, but two of their family members killed. So here we have side by side the graves of the Ruso brothers, Joseph Maurice Ruso and Joseph Philippe Ruso, both members of the 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion. They were both killed here in Normandy. Not at the same time, but both killed and buried here side by side. What a tragic story for this family. So Joseph Philippe and Joseph Maurice weren't killed at the same time in Normandy. Joseph Philippe was killed the day after D-Day, the 7th of June 1944, and his brother was killed later in September, the 20th of September 1944. But both are buried here side by side in Ranville Cemetery. Both members of the 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion, killed at different times, but though both in 1944, not long after D-Day, and both lay here, buried side by side at Ranville Cemetery. So as well as the cemetery itself, next door is the church, and there are actually some Commonwealth graves in the churchyard over here, and one specific one which we are going to go and have a look at. So we're in the churchyard of the Ranville Cemetery now. So here we have the regular civilian cemetery. Just on the other side of the wall over here is where we were. That's where the Commonwealth grave cemetery is. And then when you come into the churchyard, along the wall here, you start to see these other Commonwealth graves which are along the edge here. Let's go and take a look. So the reason I was quite keen to come through to the churchyard and look at these Commonwealth graves on this side is because one of them is a man that we've talked about in a video just recently. So our video at Pegasus Bridge, we talked about Den Brotheridge being the first Allied casualty of D-Day. Well, Den Brotheridge is buried here in Ranville Cemetery. So here we go, over in a plot just by the side here in the road is Lieutenant H.D. Brotheridge, Oxfordshire, Buckinghamshire Light Infantry Airborne, killed 6th of June 1944, 29 years old. The first Allied casualty of D-Day here at Ranville Cemetery. So we talked about there being 323 German graves here at Ranville, and here we go, here we have one of them. We have a German soldier, so this soldier is unknown, but a German soldier of World War II. Buried here at the Ranville Cemetery, alongside the British Commonwealth graves, which is fairly normal. You see that quite a lot in some of these cemeteries. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video taking a look around the Ranville Cemetery, both the Commonwealth Graves Commission Cemetery and then the Commonwealth graves here in the churchyard. I certainly found it interesting. I think when we've done some videos recently on Sword Beach and the airborne here in this area, it's important to come and see the less successful side of it. And of course, despite there being success and the invasion being successful, there were still a lot of Allied casualties. And it's important to come to places like this so you can really understand the full picture of what went on here. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this little mini series around the Sword Beach area. We've got loads more Normandy stuff which I'm planning on doing in the near future. I want to do some more stuff around the British especially. I've enjoyed doing some of these British videos. I've covered American stuff on here before, Band of Brothers, of course I have, it's very popular, but I want to make sure I keep doing the British content as well. Guys, thanks very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.